So as I was first studying these plays seriously in high school, I was also reading Nietzsche. And what I did notice is that Nietzsche's theory of the difference between what he called master morality and slave morality is very close to what Shakespeare presents in these plays, which isn't so surprising. Nietzsche was a great classical scholar, and he was studying this material from the point of view of Homer. Nietzsche's famous distinction between good and evil and good and bad, which you find in Beyond Good and Evil in his book, The Genealogy of Morals, he sees the ancient ethics as being that of a warrior people where the fundamental virtue is strength. And indeed in Coriolanus, in a big public speech on behalf of Coriolanus, one of the consuls says, "It is held that valor is the chiefest virtue." I always say to my students, could any politician say that in public in the United States? Well, what a firestorm that would set off. And I think Shakespeare was drawn to the subject matter of Coriolanus. So he wanted to see what is a community like when valor is the chiefest virtue. And Nietzsche's idea is the masters, the aristocrats, the superior warriors, define themselves in terms of a whole series of virtues: strength, health, honesty, and what they then see as bad is everything that's the opposite. So essentially the value standard, strength versus weakness. And this is the standard of warrior culture. It's what you see in the Iliad, for example. It's what makes someone a hero, is he's strong. And Nietzsche's very controversial, but I think very insightful theory is that Christian ethics results from an inversion of this. That the Christians take what the ancient pagans thought of as good, and they make that evil, and they take what they thought of, the ancients thought of as bad, and make that good, by which I mean this. The greatest evil, the greatest sin for Christians is pride, and in general aggressiveness, and the definition of evil is the behavior of warriors. And what the warriors looked upon as a vice now is elevated to the virtue: meekness, humility. As I like to put it in the ancient world, it was the Greek shall inherit the earth. For the Christians, it was the meek shall inherit the earth. When you teach, you have to come up with slogans like this to make it stick. And Shakespeare shows that. He hadn't read Nietzsche, though this is in Machiavelli.
Right.
Machiavelli's discourse.
And was had Nietzsche read Shakespeare much?
He had.
Shakespeare was popular in Germany, right?
Yes. I mean, this is amazing. Nietzsche studied Julius Caesar in high school, like every one of us. And we have his high school essay on Julius Caesar.
Is that right?
Yes, you can read it. And it's all about the friendship of Brutus and Cassius. It's all about friendship. There is no evidence that he read Coriolanus and Antony and Cleopatra. He mentions 18 of the plays. We know that he read 18 of the plays, and we got letters and conversations. He played the part of Hotspur in Henry IV at his high school. Can you imagine that?
No.
Nietzsche playing the part of Hotspur. I mean, and according to his friend, he overacted.
That I can imagine.
It was so strange to discover this in researching it. I don't think Shakespeare understood the Roman. Don't think Nietzsche understood the Roman plays. There are no signs. He was interested in them for other reasons. He really was interested in the theme of friendship in them, and so that, for example, the quarrel between Brutus and Cassius, he discussed as if it was the quarrel between him and Richard Wagner. He really projected himself in the play. He did know Shakespeare. his sister said it's Shakespeare that drove him to the idea of the Superman. And there's evidence that reading Byron and Schiller and Shakespeare broke him out of middle-class morality. His Aunt Rosalie, Nietzsche had an Aunt Rosalie, gave him a set of Shakespeare for his 16th birthday.
In German or in English?
I think it was in German, because there were great Schlegel translations. I believe he read Shakespeare in German. And it produced Nietzsche. It's very strange. I mean, his family was very upset with what happened from him from reading Nietzsche, from reading Shakespeare. So I feel that. Well, it's interesting. Nietzsche bought into the Goethe idea that Shakespeare's Romans are Englishmen. He says that in Untimely Meditations and also in some of the notes he wrote. So I think that's where he went wrong. He didn't realize
take it seriously enough. Yeah.
Take it serious enough that this was a portrait of the ancient world. But what I'm saying is, I think Shakespeare and Nietzsche came together on this point, and so that, for example, at the very end of Antony and Cleopatra, Octavius says, seeing Cleopatra's death, "O noble weakness." And that's Nietzsche in a nutshell there.
Yeah.
How has weakness become noble? And there are many, well, even, Anthony's saying the nobleness of life is due thus. There are many moments in Antony and Cleopatra where the Romans are redefining nobility in what Nietzsche would call a Christian direction, that now weaknesses can become strength, and so on. And here's the interesting point, that this is what I do discuss in this long chapter on Nietzsche and Shakespeare. I think they have a disagreement. Nietzsche, at least in his last work, The Antichrist, claims that Christianity destroyed an otherwise uncorrupted Roman Empire. And he goes on, the Roman Empire is going to last for 1,000 years. It was built to last 1,000 years, and then these Christians came along and ruined it. Shakespeare shows something very different. It was the corruption of the Roman aristocracy that led to a lot of things, one of which was Christianity, that the change in people like Antony was necessary. And indeed, it's a real question in Nietzsche. If the Roman Empire was so strong, how did it get overthrown by these weak people? And in fact, again, what I discovered in researching this essay, there are all sorts of notes. Nietzsche left behind this Nachlass, as it's called, all these notes. And in those notes, he discusses the corruption of the Roman Empire. He hated Christianity so much that he wanted to claim there was nothing wrong with the Roman Empire. But his notes, for example, there's one really key note where he says, once they saw Nero up on the throne, the idea that some men are by nature better than the others, or better than others, were shot. The claim to nobility was undermined by the corruption of the Roman Empire. And there's lots of notes to that effect. So I think Shakespeare's correcting Nietzsche, possibly actually correcting Machiavelli, who leans towards this Nietzschean position. What Shakespeare shows, and I think in some ways it is the most remarkable contribution of the Roman plays, and why he is such an important analyst of Rome, is that he sees the corruption of the nobility, the political corruption, the corruption by wealth, the sense of defeatism. Antony and Cleopatra is pervaded by defeatism, and actually, again, Shakespeare shows it already at the end of Julius Caesar. Brutus has lost everything, and largely through his own fault, and he says, I shall have, this is he's just about to commit suicide, he says, I shall have more glory by this losing day than Antony and Octavius will by winning, by their what is it, a vile victory, I think he called vile conquest, he says. That's a real transformation in Roman spirit. Coriolanus and nobody in this play goes around saying, I'm going to have more glory by losing.
Right.
And the notion that conquest is vile, that's exactly this revaluation of Roman values that Nietzsche speaks about. But Shakespeare shows it was happening in the Roman nobility as a result of the really corruption of the aristocracy. And many Roman historians, Ronald Syme, for example, the great book on the Roman Revolution, on the transition from the Republic to the Empire, points out the dispiriting of the Roman nobility. Yeah. And these were people who were used to having their lives in their control and having triumphs in their name and glory, and suddenly they were courtiers.
Yeah.